Today on Ask Miyazaki, we talk about questions to ask before a strategy session, how to build empathy by discovering your own biases, and the dreaded shadow banning on social media. If you haven't already done it, click the subscribe button so you can feel good about yourself. Marley asks, why do you think Instagram and TikTok have begun shadow banning their users? Do you believe it benefits these social media platforms? For those of you who don't already know, shadow banning, sometimes called ghost banning or comment ghosting, is when the social media platform limits the reach of your content or of your account because supposedly you've done something you've done wrong, but they don't tell you've been affected by their actions, thus it's in the shadows. The platform administrators might do this because they feel the content you post or even the fact that you've gone silent for a long period of time isn't what they want. So as for knowing you've been shadow banned, you might find out because your engagement has decreased considerably or because someone tells you that they can't see your posts or your username isn't showing up in the search results, or maybe you've had some platform features blocked like likes or replies. Most of the social media platforms say that they don't technically shadow ban people, that this is just the result of their algorithms that try to spare viewers of spam and inappropriate content. But much of the social media community is adamant in saying that this happens. So some people question whether the platforms do this intentionally or if it's just a side effect of the algorithms. And to the user who gets shadow banned, it probably doesn't matter. Either way, they've lost their ability to communicate and use the platform as it was designed. The bigger question is whether the platform has an ethical responsibility to let the user know that they've been limited in their communications. Imagine working hard to produce what you feel is amazing content, putting hours into the planning, creation, and editing, only to find out later that it was never seen because you were blocked from appearing on the feeds of your viewers and on the results of people searching for your unique content. And this leads to the next question, which is whether shadow banning benefits the social media platforms that practice this technique. The economic psychology response, which assumes that people only do things that they think are beneficial to themselves, would suggest that the platform leaders who allow this to happen must feel that it's good for business. Maybe they feel that it protects their other users who really don't want to see the content or creator in question, or maybe they just feel justified in doing it because they want to punish the content creator for their supposed bad behavior. But in any of these cases, the idea that a platform is promising a particular level or type of communication and then hiding the fact that the communication has been limited without telling the user is a clear violation of ethical standards to both the user and that user's potential viewers. Brands that repeatedly hide the truth from their constituents will eventually suffer negative reputations, which will hurt business from both the consumer or user side as well as from the advertiser side. Cameron asks, what are the most important questions to ask prior to creating a marketing strategy? Cameron, this is a question that leaders and managers should be asking every time they meet regarding strategy, whether it's marketing strategy or financial strategy or staffing or expansion or competitive strategy or any other type of strategy. Far too often, I see people jump into a strategy session with idea generation activities and brainstorming sessions and a top-down approach that assumes that the leader of the session is all-knowing with respect to the sentiments of the various stakeholders, such as the customers or the employees at various levels and the organizational suppliers. But this is a bad approach for a number of reasons. The most important, because without sufficient information, solid decisions just can't be made. This is why this question is such a good one, because it's the right approach to strategy formulation. It starts with the assumption that questions need to be asked and information needs to be gathered. I also like it because it focuses us on being efficient in our data gathering efforts, which questions are the most important. In other words, we can't just spend too much time collecting information. At some point, we need to create the strategy and figure out ways to implement that strategy. So let me get to answering your question now that I've talked about how great it is. I always feel that there are a few standard questions that need to be asked in any strategy meeting. First, what is our purpose as an organization? This is more than just a cursory review of our public relations-oriented corporate mission statement. This is The deep, why do we exist kind of question that should have been answered long before the organization even came into existence. Are we really here to serve the community, or to make the world a better place, or to cure some horrible disease? Or are we here mainly to increase shareholder wealth, or be an instigator of change in the industry, or to see how long we can just keep operating until we run out of steam? The more we understand our organizational purpose, the more likely we'll be able to build strategies that will help us to fulfill that purpose. The next question is related, but has a different focus, and that is, how can we best serve our customers? Is it by being an innovator, or by being a low-cost producer, or by engaging them intimately? The thoughts of how we can best serve our customers will help us keep our strategy connected to our clientele. This way, we won't come up with strategies that eventually alienate us from the very people that we're trying to serve. And this happens much more often than you would think. Finally, you need to ask, what are our organizational limitations and opportunities? This requires an analysis of our people, our intellectual resources, our funding, our relationships, and our brand equity. We need to understand what tasks we're easily capable of doing and what tasks might take us some time to learn and perfect. It's like a child dumping out a container of building blocks and then doing a quick inventory of the various shapes and sizes prior to starting to build her structure. She needs to know what she can build prior to determining what she should build and how she should build it. There are other questions to ask that deal with customers or past performance or industry standards or government regulations, etc. But if you start with these three questions, dealing with organizational purpose, how best to serve your customers, and the organization's limitations and opportunities, you'll find that your strategy planning will be both more efficient and more effective. Caitlin asks, in your video, Why Empathy Matters in Marketing, you said that we should discover and explore our own biases. The more we are aware of them, the more empathetic we will be. What are some steps I can take to understand my biases? Caitlin, this is a question that sincerely touches my heart. The truth is that even by just contemplating that question, you're already starting the process in a positive way. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity to watch the video, I'll put a link somewhere in the description so that you can take a look at it. The idea, which isn't really a new one, is that we all have our own biases based on our experiences in life and how we've reacted to those experiences. Because of this, each time we view someone else's experience, we see it through our already biased perspective. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a true thing, and there's no way around it. The problem is that when we don't consider the perspectives of other people, we limit our ability to empathize with them and truly understand why they do what they do and why they feel how they feel. Imagine this in the context of a close relationship with a family member or romantic partner or a friend. That person does something that you don't understand, or you don't like, or you don't approve of. So you, being the caring communicator that you feel you are, just let the other person know. Because you're all about the open and pure communication thing. The problem is that you've already made your judgment about the other person's actions based not on their perspectives, but based on your own perspectives. As a result, you've limited the communication from the start because you didn't seek understanding prior to communicating your perspectives. You never really knew what the other person did because you didn't understand the context of their actions. So your response was potentially misdirected due to your biases. So what's the solution? Some people might say that you should just get rid of your biases, but that's impossible because each person, regardless of age or gender or race, ethnicity, background, geography, etc., has a unique set of biases that come from the fact that we each live different lives. In the video, I gave an example of conjoined twins who may seem to experience every event in life with their conjoined siblings, but yet if you really investigated, you'd find that each of them actually perceived the experience somewhat differently because of their individual feelings and thoughts and, yes, biases. So if we can't get rid of our biases, what can we do? We can learn about our biases, which will help us to understand why we think the way we do, which will in turn help us to empathize more with how other people think. There are a few steps we can take to better learn about our own biases. There are a number of online tests you can take that will supposedly show you various types of biases, like Harvard's implicit association test, but that's really just telling you that you have a particular bias based on the biases of the people who created that test, of course. More telling is to practice some or all of the following. First, Expose yourself to opinions that you don't agree with, and maybe even some that you find distasteful or offensive. Then actively ponder rational reasons why that person expressed those opinions in that way. What would make them think that way? What experiences in their life may have led them to think the way that they do? And while you're doing this, don't just make the assumption that it's because of their age or gender or race or ethnicity or income or wealth or geography, etc. That's the easy way out. And that kind of thinking is full of both your own individual biases as well as a plethora of societal biases. No, instead, think of the person's potential background and experiences and resulting feelings. What has this person experienced and felt that might lead them to hold this opinion? Second, consider how your background and experiences and resulting feelings have led you to think the way you feel about this topic. What is it in your experiential life that has led you to hold the opinion you have on this topic? Was it your upbringing, your education, a particular event or occurrence, something you read or heard or watched, a relationship, an encounter with a stranger, an in-depth study of the issue? Finally, it's time to consider and imagine. Consider whether the other person could potentially have your view if that person had experienced all that you've experienced. And then consider whether you could hold their opinion if you had experienced their life. Imagine holding that disagreeable opinion and arguing against others about it. What biases would you have to rid yourself of in order to hold that opposing opinion? As you contemplate this, you'll discover that your opinions are based on your own biases, and you'll start to understand what those biases are. This process isn't meant to change your opinions. It's just meant to help you understand them. And in the process, you'll be more likely to come to understand the opinions of others and then, yes, to empathize with them. You'll actually feel closer to the other person because you've taken the time to work toward understanding them in the context of your own biases. And what's interesting is that the same process can work for someone with whom you do not have a close relationship, even someone that you don't even know, such as a politician or an author or some guy on YouTube. The more you practice this process of contemplating opposing ideas and why people hold them, you'll strengthen your ability to empathize, and that will make you a better communicator, a better friend, a better leader. And there are many people who would argue that it will make you a better contributor to a more connected and congenial society. That's all for today. Thank you for the questions. I always appreciate them. If you have a question about communication or improving your own productivity or branding or digital media or anything related, tweet your question using the hashtag AskMiyazaki. If you've not already subscribed, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of future Ask Miyazaki videos, as well as Marketing Minute or whatever else comes our way. And have a great day.